let's talk critical race theory, an introduction, a brief history, and application. Derek Bell was a professor at Harvard Law and one of the foundational scholars of critical race theory. Developed in the 1970s, critical race theory was developed to establish a theoretical framework to better understand racism in America. Two more foundational scholars of critical race theory are Richard Delgado and James Stefancic. In their book, Critical Race Theory: An Introduction, in its third edition as of 2017, they lay out 5 tenets for critical race theory. The 5 tenets of critical race theory that we will be discussing are everyday racism, or ordinary, interest convergence, social construction, intersectionality, and unique voice of color. The first tenet of critical race theory is ordinary, or everyday racism, which unfortunately means that racism is ordinary and a normal part of American culture, which makes it extremely hard for us to completely erase racism. That being said, interest convergence adds a second dimension to build upon our already established first tenet. Bell proposed interest convergence using Brown versus Board of Education as an example, positing that elite whites had self-interest rather than being motivated to help African Americans. Imagine this. You're invited to a holiday party and you have the option to bring salad or cake, but you're really feeling like you want that cake. You're going to serve your own interests and bring cake, but say it was for the greater good. Social construction refers to the idea that race is a product of social thought and relations, giving people the ability to manipulate opinions. An example of this would be people from the Middle East, originally thought of as exotic, are now seen as a threat to national security. The fourth tenet of critical race theory is intersectionality. Intersectionality is the crossroad of all of our identities, conflicting with one another as well as working upon one another. We are not just our gender, sexual orientation, or race. We are much more. The last tenet of critical race theory is unique voice of color. Unique voice of color is the idea that minority groups have the ability to educate majority groups based on their own personal experiences, one that majority groups do not have. One of the expansions of critical race theory is the cultural wealth model. I think this ties nicely to unique voice of color because it encourages students to understand their cultural wealth and take that experience into their education. So, you may be wondering, how do I apply this? Well, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Go through the 5 tenets of critical race theory and try to understand them in your own life and apply them to your own experiences. I hope now you have a better understanding of critical race theory. See you next time. Goodbye.